Being open-minded in the martial arts was crucial for me becoming a stuntman and a martial arts action actor in the film industry. Growing up, me, my brother, and my dad watched so many martial arts movies, and it was complementary to our training. I grew up in the late 90s and early 2000s, and I was first exposed to Jackie Chan when he first started breaking into the Hollywood scene. I grew up with the Rush Hour trilogy that are still classic movies to this day, but I also grew up with Shanghai Noon and Shanghai Nights, as well as movies like The Medallion and Rumble in the Bronx. As I delved more into martial arts action cinema, I began to watch a lot more of Jackie's older films. These are the films that made him famous in Asia. These were the films that he made in Hong Kong that really stood out in the martial arts world. Some of the films that I absolutely loved from Jackie's early days were the Police Story movies, Drunken Master and the Legend of the Drunken Master, Project A and its sequel, My Lucky Stars, and Twin Dragons. Jackie Chan had such a unique way of presenting martial arts through action comedy in film. He is a true legend. He is one of the best martial artists, action actors, and stuntmen on the planet. Every martial arts action star has a different skill set that they bring to the table. I remember Jet Li was just an incredible performer, and a lot of that was attributed to his high-level wushu background. I loved a lot of Jet Li films. My favorite Jet Li film was Fearless. That was one that I've watched multiple times, and I just love the story, the cinematography, and the fight scenes. I also loved films like Once Upon a Time in China, Fist of Legend, and Hero. Donnie Yen is another legend that I have followed quite a bit over the years. He has been famous for a long time in the martial arts world. He had famous movies that were absolutely incredible, like Iron Monkey in the 90s. He was known for having incredible kicks and excellent wushu. What I love about Donnie Yen is how much he's been able to express himself through different movements within the martial arts, through different styles within the martial arts. When he did Ip Man, he wasn't able to portray any of his kicks that he's famous for. Rather, he had to depend solely on Wing Chun movements, with his own flair, of course. He pulled off that character seamlessly, and what I love about Ip Man, especially the first one, and a few other martial arts films that are iconic, is that often what makes a really amazing martial arts movie is not only the fight scenes being on point, but also a good story and a larger than life story. If you take a movie like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, it's about forbidden love. That's the theme, and people can relate to stories like that, but while that theme and that story is being told, you are entertained with incredible martial arts, which just enhances the story. One of my favorite Donnie Yen films was Flashpoint. What I loved about Flashpoint was he was able to implement mixed martial arts moves in an action movie, and he pulled this off better than any fighter could ever pull it off. Oftentimes fighters really suck at film fighting, and there's so many reasons as to why, but Donnie was able to take these various moves and techniques from mixed martial arts and implement it into Flashpoint. As I mentioned before, my big draw for getting into martial arts was wanting to stand out for being different but in a very cool and unique way. The films in martial arts cinema that really caught my attention were often the ones that were innovative and unique. Most good martial arts films were coming out of Hong Kong, and they were mostly inspired by various kung fu styles. It was absolutely incredible to see someone like Tony Jaa make it onto the scene in movies like The Protector and in Ong Bak, where he doesn't do kung fu or any of these East Asian styles, rather he is doing Muay Boran. There were movies like The Raid that portrayed other Southeast Asian martial arts styles like Silat. The way they shot these movies, as well as the way the actors and stuntmen performed, were completely unique, and I was inspired by it. Not only was I inspired by the action stars in martial arts cinema, but I was also inspired by my teachers and my peers. By the time I was 20 years old, I had already known a lot of martial artists that were in the film industry. By this time, I had already known D.Y. Sao for years, and he had been starring in his own films as well as working in the industry. The EMC monkeys were a huge inspiration for me getting into stunts and into creating my own projects as well. Also, along the journey, I've been continually inspired by Martial Club. I love their projects. I was fortunate enough to be a part of a lot of them, and I love their training, their work ethic, and their warrior spirit. Even my Kuksul Kwan master Mike Dunchuk had some experience in the film industry. When I was a kid, I remember he was always going back and forth from LA for auditions. He even had an action scene in his friend Emilio's movie Fierce Target. I found out that his teacher, Grandmaster Helmon Gil, even worked in the film industry in Korea, working on some action movies. He was also friends with Master Hwang In-shik, who is famous in Hong Kong cinema, especially for his role in Young Master fighting Jackie Chan. I started getting into stunt work around 20 years old. When you're trying to get into stunts in this martial arts action film industry, you have to realize that you're going to be doing a lot of free work for those first few years. The idea is that through getting this experience from doing these projects, you're starting to build a resume, you build a wider network, maybe meet some stunt coordinators as well as other performers and directors, and hopefully you get hired onto projects with bigger pay and have better opportunities. When I first started, I was enthusiastic and eager to get involved with as many projects as I could. Something I would advise any stunt performer is to put out your own projects that you create with your friends and peers within this industry. When you do this, you have full creative control of the stories that you want to tell, as well as the type of choreography that you want to display. When you create your own projects, you often wear many hats. You learn how to operate a camera and shoot action, which is a valuable skill. You learn how to direct. You learn how to act. You learn how to be a lead, or you learn how to be like a goon and stunt performer, a bad guy that is losing in the scene, and you have to sell it in order to make the lead look convincingly superior to you in terms of their skill sets. I continue to put out my own projects with my friends, and over the years I've learned so much. My editing has gotten way better, my sound design has gotten better, and like I mentioned before, I learned how to direct, I learned how to choreograph, I learned how to be the camera operator, and I learned how to be a lead. I was fortunate enough that my good friend Alan Bowie was down to be the camera operator and shoot all of these fight scenes that I was doing as I was trying to make it in the industry. The first few projects that I put out were just fight scenes with no story, where me and good friends of mine, often just students, were doing choreography, and I just wanted to display my arsenal of martial arts techniques, choreography, knowledge, and really put that on screen. One of the cooler projects that I did early on was a project called Dojang Duel, and that was a fight scene I did with my good friend Ray Yao, who I met on a set of another film. We became good friends, and we ended up doing this fight scene in my original martial arts studio that I trained in, where I got my black belt in the Kuksul Kwan Dojang. It was a fun fight scene where we got to do different sequences of choreography with different weapons. I'm also very grateful that we shot on such an amazing camera. It was shot on the Ursa Mini, which is really cool. It gave it a professional look. JD was the director of photography, and Corey was the PA, and he did the sound for that shoot. I'm just very grateful that they volunteered their services. They did this for free. They really made the whole filming process fun and exciting, and I'm still happy that I knocked out that project. I really enjoyed working with my very talented friend Ian Oh, who is an actor from Korea and martial artist. I was very honored to be able to do projects with him. I did a fight scene with him just in a parking structure. And then when I wanted to do my passion project, The Blue Spirit, he played one of the main villains in the short film. The Blue Spirit essentially is a love letter to what inspired me to get into martial arts, which was Avatar: The Last Airbender. I wanted to create an amazing short film that had incredible action, but wasn't so corny that trying to translate an animated show into live action just looks weird. You know, I wanted it to look more organic and natural, so I took Zuko's Blue Spirit character, which had no bending, and I just did sword choreography for that. And there was no bending in this whole short film. I just wanted to have it raw martial arts weapons choreography. So, like I said, it's crucial to be able to put out your own projects, create your own content designed around the way that you want to shoot. It's perfect for developing good skills in this martial arts film industry. But another thing that is really valuable and really important is being able to have a place, to have a lab where you and your training partners can get together, shoot choreography, brainstorm ideas, exchange knowledge, exchange martial arts skills, and grow together. During the pandemic in 2020, a group of friends of mine that were very talented trickers, martial artists, breakdancers, stuntmen, we got together and we would meet every Saturday at a park, and we would go over a training that involved movements from various different martial arts styles. We all pitched in with our knowledge of what style and what background we came from, and we tried to learn from each other. And that really helped me learn fundamental movements in various martial arts styles, which directly translates to working in film, because sometimes we're on set and we need to do movements that are from a specific style, or the character has a certain personality which reflects that style. And if I only know one martial arts style, then I'm limiting my opportunities and my skill set and what I'm able to do. I'm even limiting work for myself. Learning those different styles is super valuable. But on top of that, doing choreography with my friends and putting them out, practicing the sounds, like editing the sounds and editing all of it, doing the choreography, empty hands with weapons, melee fights. It not only was incredibly fun, but it helped me level up immensely as a martial arts action actor, as a fight choreographer, as a stuntman. It was incredible. And a consistent 3 years, I was there every Saturday and we would train for hours. I'm talking 4 or 5 hours. So it is one of the most important aspects of my martial arts journey, was training there at that park. The skills I learned at that park, I still bring with me on those sets. And the friends I made at that park, the friendships that were developed, I take those guys with me when I'm on film sets, and when they're working on projects, they take me with them. As far as projects that I worked on, I remember that very early on in my martial arts film journey, I got an acting role for a martial arts film. So I did stunts, choreographed, and acted in it. So it was a good learning experience. My good buddy Miguel Munoz also did a TV pilot as a part of his thesis at Cal State Northridge. So I did that student film of his called Freedom Fighter. It was about a guy that fought in the streets, trying to fight in a more clean way, doing MMA. I did stunts for a movie called Lazarus. I did stunts for another film called The Mercenary. One of the coolest things I was able to do was link up with Martial Club and develop that friendship and brotherhood with them as well. I've always loved their content and their videos, and I had met them years ago, but we really got close around 2017, 2018, and I was able to be a part of some of their videos. There's funny skits, those videos that they had on their YouTube, but also short films like Fist of Fury. That was one of my favorite projects I've ever been a part of. The energy being on that set was incredible. I can only imagine that it feels similar to when you were on a set with Jackie Chan and all his martial brothers that were there with him, risking their lives to create a really beautiful product. DY starred in a series of films, and I'm very grateful that he hired me on these films. I was in his film Hanuman, where I fought him with dual katanas. I worked on a TV show pilot with him that Lyndon Hoffman was heading. I got to do stunts for his film Bangkok Dog, and I recently played a character in his most recent film, which we just filmed in Bangkok, and that should be coming out within the next year. It's always a pleasure filming with your martial arts brothers, with your teachers, your mentors, so I just feel honored to have been a part of these projects with DY. I also had some opportunities to work as a stunt coordinator, which takes a whole new set of skills. I got to be stunt coordinator for a few of Zach King Studios projects, and that was really awesome. Zach is an amazing guy, and his crew are all filled with amazing people as well, and I love working with them. I got to work on their TikTok ban video, as well as their short film for YouTube called Zach King versus Porch Pirates, where I got to perform in these projects, but I also got to choreograph and coordinate how all the action was going to go down, and I had a blast doing it. There's an awesome feature film called Dark Feathers, which has won so many awards, and I really enjoyed being a part of this project as well. I was hired on as a stunt coordinator for this project as well. I had to choreograph some fight scenes in the middle of the movie, but especially the ending fight scene, which involved a lot of katana work. So I was very happy that I spent all those months at the park training katana and doing choreography with him. That really helped prep me to coordinate this fight scene. And when it came shoot day, I had all the confidence in the world to make a good action scene. I'm currently still working on projects, putting out my own projects as well. And some of the projects that I have been a part of, I cannot talk about yet because they haven't come out yet. But a lot of exciting things have happened, and I'm very grateful for that. I want to continue to work in this film industry. I want to level up my skills as an actor, as a martial artist, film fighter, directing, editing, everything. And I hope to do this for a very long time.